The Core Connection. I'm Mira Rubin here with you on Enlightened World Network. And today's topic is delight. We spend so much time ruminating on the problems and concerns and upsets. What if we were to actually dedicate comparable, if not greater, time to generating positive emotions like delight? It actually would, all of these ruminations, wherever they are, positive or negative, impact our physiology and our chemistry and our brain chemistry. And so what if we took a more active role in designing our brain? So that's what we're going to talk about. Good morning, Rosalind. Welcome. It's so good to have you here with us this morning. It's a Friday, so why not go into the weekend cultivating delight? Before we get started, let's take a couple minutes to get present. Let's take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And imagine clean, crisp oxygen flooding your lungs, flowing into your bloodstream, nourishing all your cells, all your organs, bringing vital life energy to your body and being. And as you exhale, exhale any tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's take another deep breath in through your nose and hold it. This time, imagine brilliant, bright light, lighting you up from the inside out, illuminating, electrifying, and energizing all your cells, your molecules, your electrons, creating a brilliant beam of light and energy from your heart out into the world. And as you exhale, exhale any remaining tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's press our palms together. Vigorously rub your hands together to feel the friction, the temperature, the pressure, the motion, the tickling and tingling when you stop, and allow all those sensations to bring you present right here, right now, into this remarkable physical form that enables us to experience life. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So it's great to be here. We're talking about delight, but not really just about delight. We're talking about ushering into our lives the emotions that shift our frequency, that shift our brain chemistry, that shift the chemistry of our whole system to generate and reinforce health. So we've been talking a lot about limbic system retraining and talking about how our patterns become entrenched, not only emotionally, but there are physical pathways that occur and chemistry that occurs, and looking at what it takes to rewire those connections, to redefine them, to create new pathways, new channels of not only thinking, not only feeling, but of being, because it's all one system, right? Like we make the mistake of thinking that we can separate physiology from experience, or emotion or thought. So the thing is that all of these different things are interacting, energy. It's all part of the same thing. When we talk about raising our frequency, yes, we're raising our frequency, but at the same time, we're changing our chemistry, we're changing our emotional state, we're changing our state, our thoughts. And so what's lovely about recognizing that is that we can recognize that all of these different avenues are inroads into making that kind of transformation in our experience. So we can approach it from an emotional aspect or an energetic aspect or a physiological aspect or a physical behavioral aspect. So we have all these different inroads to be able to create transformational change for ourselves. Good morning, Robin. So good to have you here with us this Friday morning. We are talking about spending time and energy to cultivate more positive emotional experiences that then create a more positive physiology and that then impact our health. So the impact our health piece is something that we haven't necessarily recognized, but years ago, I remember reading, hearing, I'm not sure who it was. I think it was somebody who became a pretty prominent figure in the personal growth movement, but this person had cancer. And what they did was they spent hours and hours and hours watching comedy and laughing. And in creating that upliftment, what they were doing is they were actually changing their physiology, and they had a remission from cancer. And so we think about that as a placebo sort of effect. But is it, when we really think about it, what is a placebo? So I was watching a couple YouTube videos about placebo effect and what placebo is. And the thing that's so fascinating is they did in this video, there was a brain study where they hooked somebody up to a brain monitoring device, and this person had a condition. It was pain. And Robin says laughter is the best medicine. Well, there may be actual physiological proof of that, because of all the chemistry that gets activated when we laugh, and the muscles that get activated, and it makes sense, right? When we think about that, all of this is interconnected. We had separated all these things, or medicine had separated all these things apart from each other, saying, well, the physical is the physical. And the thing is that we can see that this emotional state impacts our physiology. I mean, depression becomes a physiological state. And if it weren't, why would we be able to treat it with pills or medication that is meant to shift chemistry, right? So when we say it's all chemistry, it's actually all interrelated. It's not just chemistry. It's our thoughts and our feelings are integral to our physiology. Anyway, so in this video about placebo, what they did was they gave somebody who was in pain a medicine that the person was told would relieve pain, that it was a really strong pain reliever. And in fact, it wasn't. In fact, it was just a placebo. It had no physiological, no chemical properties that would be addressing the pain. So I guess it was chemically neutral, you might say. And because this person believed that it was going to address their pain, what they noticed with this brain hookup was that the person, first of all, experienced less pain, but they noticed that the centers that register or communicate pain in the brain became much less active. And then they gave them a pain reliever. They were quick to say this. They gave them a pain reliever that actually had medicine in it to relieve pain, and the pain was relieved even more. That's not always the case, by the way, but in this particular thing that in this video, it was. So when we talk about the power of belief, the power of belief is also something that is activating our chemistry. So I've been fascinated by this stuff for forever. So I remember reading about this case where somebody had stage 4 horrible cancer. There was no prognosis for them. They were just done, like something like 2 weeks or 4 days, something ridiculous. And then they were told that there was this new study, or they read about this new drug, or treatment. They were, I don't know if they were in the study. Oh, they were in the study, and it was really, really hopeful. And they had crazy, insane symptoms that completely reversed. Like their lungs had been filling with fluid, and I mean, it was a bad situation. They were in the study. The study had really good reviews. In a ridiculously short period of time, all these incurable conditions started reversing themselves in a way that was completely inexplicable. And then the reviews, final reviews or whatever, later reviews came out in the study saying that it was ineffective. And within days, this person died of their conditions that flooded back in. So this is the power of the mind. I mean, through hypnosis, and we talk about mass hypnosis, which we're all prey to with our media, with our news, with the cultural norms that we adopt without question or even consciousness. We have the ability to really dramatically shift our physiology with hypnosis. So as an example, and I like being able to have these personal examples, because it's not hearsay. I've heard so many wonderful things and magical things about all this, but when you get to test it yourself, that's very validating. Like it's a different level of knowing, right? So I had cut my thumb and I had to go get stitches. And so I was at the hospital. Hello, Alice. Welcome. So good to have you joining us. Robin says mind over matter. Exactly. Maybe mind is matter, or mind is what matters, right? Or maybe mind creates matter. Anyway, so I cut my thumb. I went into the emergency care and to get it sewn up, and they said, well, here, we'll give you some anesthesia. I said, no, you don't need to give me anesthesia. And I hypnotized myself. And what that meant really was I just pulled myself into a state of presence and relaxation. And they stitched up my hand, and the doctor was gobsmacked. The doctor was like, what is this? What do you mean no anesthesia? And I didn't flinch. I didn't have any reactions as they were sewing me up. And I'm sure that rocked his world. But it proved to me that we have the capability to be shifting our physiology in radical ways. I had read, and I don't know if this is a common practice in Japan or if it was a study, but it was where people, rather than having anesthesia for open heart surgery, they used hypnosis in this one case that I read about, and the person experienced much accelerated healing after the procedure. And I imagine that was part of the hypnosis too, was to allow them to heal more quickly, believing that their body is accelerating the healing process, which we can do. The thing is, and this goes back to the topic of today's conversation, which is delight. We spend typically so much time confirming again and again how miserable we are about this, that, or the other thing, and just keep ruminating on the things that upset us, and we create more and more upset. So, as an example, recently, I've told you I have had these upsets happening in my life that I get to grow into and grow beyond and utilize and all that great stuff. But the thing is, in the process, I got really upset. And even though I wasn't consciously necessarily upset, what I noticed was that my digestion got worse, that my ability to breathe, that I was like I have a history of asthma from a young child. And what I noticed was I wasn't able to take a deep breath. And we've talked recently this week about the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is the longest nerve in our body, and it goes through, it impacts pretty much every system. It impacts our lungs, it impacts our digestion. It's connected with the limbic system and fight or flight. And so when we're threatened and our body, I'm just looking at what Alice says. I watched Sue. She's wonderful. I don't know who Sue is. I don't know what the subject is about. Is it about mental health, healing of emotions, feeling of guilt, nerves? We're talking about how we have the ability, Alice, to elevate and shift actually shift our physiology by shifting our emotions and our thoughts, shifting our feelings, changing our state, and how if we could refocus our energy and attention from ruminating, thinking, perseverating. I love that word. It's a great word, perseverating on it. If you think of the word persevere, perseverating, like keeping doing the persevering, keep doing the same thing over and over, where we just sort of create this loop. We're creating actual channels of neural pathways in our brain, neural synapses, that then become more and more deeply entrenched. So if we're retraining ourselves, what we get to do is to focus on delight. If we're depressed, if you're depressed, the likelihood is that your posture is slumped, your face is flaccid, right? Like you can see the impact of someone's depression. Their whole physiology is different than if they're in a state of delight and upliftment. It's a whole different thing. And so there is such a thing as smile and laughter therapy, because when you smile, you're activating all these different muscles that are tied in with all this different chemistry and physiology in your body. So when you smile, when you laugh, it's shifting your, not only your emotion, but your actual physiology is changing, right? There's this upliftment, there's this openness versus this depression. And I've known them both, so there's a whole difference. And what happens is your body is shooting all filled with all kinds of great endorphins and other kinds of wonderful chemicals that are affecting the whole system, the wellness of the whole system. So Rosalind says, what is Joe Dispenza's practice? What was your experience when you went to his retreat? Oh my gosh. So if you're not familiar with Dr. Joe Dispenza, check him out. You can find Joe Dispenza meditations all over YouTube. He has retreats that are essentially meditation retreats. And what he's supporting people in doing is going into a deep state of consciousness that transcends all these beliefs and patterns, you know, that allows us, as he says, to be no body, not being the body, no one, no thing, nothing, no one, nobody, to be transcending the boundaries of our identification with our physical self and our ideas of who we are, to go, really, it's kind of going into right brain unity space where everything is connected, where we are unbounded. I mentioned the other day a video that I saw from what's her name? I think it's Jill Bolton Taylor, maybe. I think I have that wrong. But she, or Bolte Taylor. Anyway, she's a brain scientist and she had a stroke. And she was able to watch this whole process. And as the left side of her brain shut down, she was able to notice that the right side of her brain she had this expansive experience. She saw herself as energy. She couldn't see the boundaries between her body and the rest of what was existing. She said she felt this total unity and expansion and couldn't imagine how she, this big expanded self, could possibly fit in such a small thing as this physical human body, that her experience of being had been so expanded. And that's really what the Joe Dispenza work is aimed at, and it's meditation. We actually, and if anybody had ever told me that I would experience this, I would have just been gobsmacked. I would have been just very incredulous that we did a 6-hour meditation and the time went by. So it's like no time, no space, no body, no self, essentially, and just into this other dimension of being. And from that space, anything is possible. And so it was lots and lots of meditation, which was really powerful. But anyway, go check out Joe Dispenza Meditations on YouTube, because it is about how to use the body, to go beyond the body, to be able to heal the body, to be able to have a whole different relationship with the physical universe. So it's pretty powerful stuff. And it's very much about what we're talking about, although rather than talking about it on a cosmic level, we're kind of talking about it on a physical plane. You know, we might not experience our thoughts as things, as energy, as something that impacts us physiologically. But if we recognize that this is a whole system, you cannot separate one piece out from another. And people that have perpetual anger, and this is something that I've noticed in talking with a lot of people who've experienced cancer. And I don't know if we can generalize it beyond that. Maybe everybody has some deep element of rage and anger, but I've noticed when I have worked with people with cancer, is that there was a lot of anger to be released, a lot of anger to be released that had been squashed down, that we haven't allowed ourselves to experience. And so one of the things that is so important to our healing and our maintenance of our well-being is to allow ourselves to experience the feeling, the energy of those emotions. And to, as we presence ourselves to it, that gives it a pathway to release. So Alice, thank you for joining us today. It's wonderful to have you here with us. So as the idea is we are energetic beings. As we pay attention to those energies and give them an opportunity to diffuse and dissolve, then they don't manifest physically in disease, dis-ease. So to go back around with this notion of retraining the brain, I said earlier that I was experienced, that I had been noticing that my body had its own reaction that went beyond my conscious awareness, that went beyond my conscious thinking. And so with that awareness, I was especially attributing, rather than getting upset of, oh my gosh, I can't breathe, oh my gosh, my digestion's getting worse, to say, oh, okay, my limbic system is stressed and is working overtime because I've been upset about this thing. And so I can address the upset, I can be present to it, move through it, transform it, and recognize, whatever the connections are, that I can start untangling, like this big ball of yarn, untangling all these interconnections that that are then having an ongoing physiological effect. So generating positive emotions, and doing this in a way that's also physical, because we're engaging multiple systems. We're not just sitting there thinking about it, but when we engage with a physical affirmation of this positive experience and emotion, if we can cultivate that, then what we're doing is we're sending new surges of chemistry through our bodies that can help to uplift us and create new patterning. So the invitation is to go into the weekend and into the rest of our lives with an intention to be cultivating these positive pathways, these positive patterns that are going to generate all kinds of great, uplifting, healthful chemistry in our bodies. And sometimes it's really hard to do that, like we're deep in the doldrums. It's hard to, as we said yesterday, to move beyond the inertia, to actually choose to alter our state. So that's the invitation. Take the reins of our lives in our hands and generate a higher level of frequency, a higher level of energy, more delight, and recognize that that is not a matter of self-indulgence. That is a matter of health. So that's it for this morning. I'm Mira Rubin. This is the Core Connection, and I go live here each weekday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern on the Enlightened World Network Facebook page and YouTube channel, and my Facebook pages. And I invite you to check out the other awesome programming on Enlightened World Network and Enlightened World Living. And as always, I'm so deeply grateful to have the opportunity to spend this time together in discovery and exploration. And until next time, so much love to you.